You'd think hitting $300,000 net worth would feel like something, like you'd wake up differently, walk differently, maybe look in the mirror and just know you made it. But here's what nobody tells you. Most people who hit 300K feel almost nothing, and some of them, they actually feel more stressed than before they had the money. I'm going to explain exactly why that happens, and more importantly, what it actually means for your financial journey. Stick with me here, because this isn't just a money is complicated video. This is about something called the wealth perception gap, and it messes with people's heads at every single income level. 30K, 300K, $3 million, doesn't matter. I've talked to people with multiple six figures sitting in their brokerage account who still feel like they're one bad month away from being broke. And I've talked to people with almost nothing in savings who feel completely financially confident. The number in your account is not the whole story. It never has been. So let's actually break down why $300,000, which by the way is more than most Americans will ever accumulate, feels like you're still running on a hamster wheel. Okay, so the first reason this happens, and this one is huge, is what I call the half-real money problem. When you have $300,000 in net worth, that number sounds massive, but let's actually look at what it's made up of. Let's say you're 32 years old. You've been grinding, contributing to your 401k since your first job. You bought a house a few years ago. You've got some money in a brokerage account. Here's what that 300k probably looks like. Maybe $120,000 locked in your 401k or IRA. You can't touch that until you're nearly 60 without a penalty. That money is gone from your daily life. Another $100,000 in home equity, which sounds great until you realize you can't spend equity. You live in it, and if you want to access it, you have to take out a loan against your own house, which means more debt. Then maybe $50,000 in a brokerage account. Okay, this one's a little more real, but is it money you're going to spend? No, because you know that touching it now means missing out on years of compounding, so mentally you don't count it either. And maybe $30,000 in an emergency fund that you've been told 1,000 times never to touch. So out of $300,000, how much feels like money you can actually use in your day-to-day life? Almost none of it. And your brain knows this. Your brain is not looking at your Fidelity balance and feeling rich. Your brain is looking at your checking account, which probably has a few $1,000s in it and feeling exactly the same as it always has. That's the half-real money problem. Your net worth went up, your spending reality barely moved. Now here's where it gets even more frustrating, because while your net worth was slowly climbing, your lifestyle was quietly upgrading too. And I don't even mean you went crazy, I mean the subtle stuff. A few years ago, you were splitting a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate and eating out twice a week. Now you have your own place, a car payment, maybe a gym membership, a few streaming services, better groceries, and you go out a little more because you're not stressed about every dollar the same way you used to be. None of those things individually are crazy, but add them all up and your monthly expenses are probably $800 to $1,500 higher than they were when you were broke, every single month. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's not a character flaw, it's completely human. When you earn more, you spend more. It happens automatically if you're not watching for it. But here's the thing, lifestyle inflation is a silent killer of wealth perception. Because it means that even as your net worth climbs, the pressure of your monthly life also climbs right alongside it. You need more just to maintain the life you've built, which means that 300K, as impressive as it is on paper, doesn't feel like a cushion. It feels like a baseline you have to protect. All right, so we've talked about why the money isn't fully real and why your expenses grew, but there's a third thing happening that honestly might be the most psychological. The goalpost keeps moving. Think back to when you had basically nothing. Maybe you were fresh out of college with $800 in your account and student loans looming over you. And you thought, if I could just get to $10,000 saved, I'd feel so much better. Then you got to $10,000 and you felt better for about a week. Then the new goal was $50,000. Then $50,000 came and the new goal was $100,000. Because that's when things would really change, right? 6 figures, that's real money. Then you hit 100K and honestly, yes, it felt good for a moment, but then immediately, without even thinking about it, your brain recalibrated. The new number was $300,000 because that's when you'd really be set. And now you're at $300,000 and the new number is $1 million. This is called the hedonic treadmill, and it applies to money exactly the same way it applies to everything else in life. Houses, cars, relationships, achievements. We adapt, we normalize, we move the finish line. The problem isn't that you're greedy, the problem is that your brain is wired to pursue the next thing, not to sit and appreciate the current thing. It kept your ancestors alive, it's keeping you anxious. And knowing that doesn't fully fix it, but it at least helps you understand why reaching a number you dreamed about doesn't feel the way you imagined it would. Now let me add one more ingredient to this mix, and this one is modern. This one didn't exist 30 years ago. Social media. Here's the thing about comparison. Humans have always done it. It's built into us. We look at the people around us and we measure ourselves against them. That's normal. But for most of human history, you were comparing yourself to your neighbors, your coworkers, your family, people who were roughly in the same situation as you. Now, you open Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and you're comparing yourself to the top 0.1%. You're watching someone tour their $3 million house, someone showing off their portfolio that hit $2 million at age 28, someone talking casually about their private jet charter. And even if you intellectually know that this is a curated highlight reel, even if you know these people are a tiny fraction of the population, your brain doesn't fully process that. Your brain just sees, this is what success looks like. I don't have that. I haven't made it. So 300,000, which again is genuinely more than most people in this country will ever accumulate, starts to feel small, almost embarrassing, like you're behind. You're not behind. You're comparing yourself to the loudest, wealthiest, most visible 1% on the internet and using that as your benchmark for normal. That's not a fair comparison. It's not even a real one, but it's the one your brain keeps making by default. Okay, so I've just spent the last several minutes explaining why 300,000 feels like nothing. Let me now tell you what $300,000 actually is. $300,000 is not the finish line. It was never supposed to be. $300,000 is a foundation, and what you do with that foundation in the next 5 to 10 years is going to determine everything. Here's the math that most people don't actually sit down and run. If you're 35 years old with $300,000 invested and you never add another dollar, not one, at a historical average of 7% per year, that $300,000 becomes roughly $1.15 million by the time you're 55, $2 million by the time you're 60. That's without adding anything. Now, imagine if you keep contributing $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. The number at the end starts to look completely different. This is what compounding looks like when it actually has a base to work from, and $300,000 is a meaningful base. The problem is that we're so focused on how the number feels right now, in the present moment, that we don't give ourselves credit for what it's actually doing on our behalf, quietly, in the background, every single day. Your 300K is working right now. It doesn't care that you don't feel rich. It's compounding while you're stressing about whether you have enough. Here's the thing I want you to leave you with, and this is the part that almost nobody talks about. The real psychological shift in your wealth journey doesn't happen at 300K. It happens at $100,000. Because $100,000 is where the compounding starts to become visible. It's where the numbers start to move in a way you can feel. It's where you go from, I'm just trying to save money, to, my money is actually building something. Before 100K, you're mostly fighting behavioral battles, cutting spending, increasing income, staying consistent when it feels pointless. That's hard, that's grinding. After 100K, the math starts doing some of the work for you. A 7% return on $100,000 is $7,000 in a year. That's real money. That's almost a month of living expenses for a lot of people, generated by your portfolio, not by your labor. At 300K, that same 7% is $21,000 every year, just sitting there. So if you're at 300K and you feel like nothing has changed, you're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You're just in a phase of the journey where the engine is running, but you haven't hit the open highway yet. Keep building, keep contributing. Don't let the goalpost mess with your head, because the people who quit at 300K because it didn't feel like enough are the same people who look back at 60 and wish they had just stayed the course. If this video helped you think about your money differently, share it with someone who's been grinding and wondering why it doesn't feel like enough yet. And if you want to understand what actually happens at that 100K milestone, why it's the most important number in your journey and how to get there faster, that video's right here. I'll see you there.